my fellow readers. Today I'm going to talk about Don't Call It Mystery. This is a new series that I just sort of discovered. It just came up. I think I was actually reading a Book Riot article and they were recommending some new manga, and this one came up and I thought it sounded intriguing because I do like mysteries and I think they're harder to find in the manga sphere, at least for what's being released in the States. So this is actually volumes 1 and 2. It's an omnibus version, and it's very interesting where you get a character that's kind of quirky and odd, and I guess kind of Sherlock Holmesian. Just at this point, he doesn't have a Watson narrating his story. It's just us observing his story. So, from the back, the award-winning tale of a reluctant Sherlock by the creator of Basara and Seven Seeds. Totonobu is a college student who stands out both for his bushy hairdo and his finely honed abilities of observation and deduction. When Totono is accused of murder, he puts his skills to work and uses his exceptional insights to find the real killer. Later, all Totono wants to do is return to his own little world, but he can't avoid getting caught up in one mystery after another. In his blunt yet gentle way, Totono is a truth seeker who tries to make sense of a chaotic and often dangerous world. So yes, mystery series, omnibus of the first 2 volumes. I think the second one is coming out relatively soon, but in the first story, he is accused of murder. I think he's a little bit surprised by that, but there was a former classmate that he happened to run into, and they were talking. I think they talked briefly, and he left, and then the student turns up dead, and then it's a question of why and how, and did he have anything to do with it? We, of course, as the readers, have no choice but to kind of trust him that he didn't do it, and then sit there as he figures out who actually is the culprit. And that actually played out really interestingly, and I, of course, won't give it away, but it was a surprising twist that occurs, letting you know who the culprit was. The second part, because of course the canon there, and it's funny too, because in both stories, it starts off with him like he just wants to make, I can't remember, it's curry. I just remembered it, it's curry. In both instances, he just wants to make curry, and something interrupts like his curry, or it happens in like the 2 main stories. So apparently, he really wants to make some curry and enjoy it during the season, and then something always comes up, and it's usually some kind of shady business. At the second story, after the whole curry incident, there's like a cop who keeps coming to him and asking questions because he observed his power of observation, and anyway, it's a whole thing and it's funny. But after that gets decided, all he wants to do is go visit this art exhibit, which will be closing down that day. He gets on a bus and ends up involved in this larger scheme that's happening and has to help solve that one. And that does shake up, actually the majority of the omnibus is part of that case. There is a third case that happens as well, but I think the second case is the bigger one, and the one that has kind of more implications for future volumes in the series, because he ends up meeting a character that seems to be like the Moriarty to his Sherlock, but they seem to be more, I guess there's more potential friendship there, but this is definitely another character who is very smart, but willing to make choices that are on the other side of the law in order to get what they want. And so it does set up a dynamic between the two, but they're, I don't know, they're like friendly, but I definitely see this being a character that will recur with kind of Moriarty effects, and I like that. I think it's going to be really interesting for the series. And the last case is just more of a kind of simple story that involves another, I think he's on a train this time though, not the bus, but it's another travel story where he ends up meeting somebody else. Again, he's on his way to an art exhibit, which I think is in the next town. So it's the one that he wanted to see, but it's going to be in the next town over, or what have you. Probably not the next town over, but a little bit further. So he's traveling, ends up at nearby this one girl, and ends up discovering that her letter seems to have a decoded message, and working through that and what the message means or might imply. And yeah, I thought that one was really interesting, and now that I'm remembering it all, I'm like, that was one of my favorites. Actually, I think they were all very good little mystery pieces, and if the series continues like this is going to be quite enjoyable. So I would say if you're a fan of mysteries, if you like Sherlock and Sherlock Holmes stories, this is a good manga to get into, because it is more like straightforward mystery series. Whereas in the case of like Case Files of Jeweler Richard, where they're softer mysteries, I guess you would call it, in the sense that there's usually just like a relationship issue or something going on that also has gems and jewels as a backdrop. This one is more straightforward mysteries where sometimes there's a crime committed, like dead body, and you solve dead body. I'm trying to think if there was dead body in the third one, but in general, most of them are more like traditional crimes where you're solving what it is. And he's a very quirky character, and so I do think it has a broad appeal just from his quirkiness and his wild hair. So don't call it mystery, call it a fun read. That's it for this video. Until next time, bye.